Activities marking Nigeria's 60th independence climax with anniversary parade.
Belittle our achievements as a nation and as a people and expect greatness. It's what you say that you get. That is the truth about it. So the place of patriotism is essentially important.
As Nigeria clocks 60, congratulatory messages pour in, encouraging citizens to believe in the Nigeria project.
India felicitates with President Buhari and Nigerians on the country's 60th independence anniversary.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee matters arising, plus National Water Resources Bill 2020.
All right, 60 years ago, some of us here, were still being contemplated, or non-existent, I should say. So remember, I didn't say there, I said those of us here. So the freedom from the shackles of imperialism and other economic privileges we enjoy today were really the labor of our heroes past.
Well, Claire, I get your point clearly, and indeed it's a privilege to have been around, even though unconsciously at the time of Nigeria's independence. Well, the labor of our founding fathers certainly not in doubt, and also not in vain. And the legacies in physical and material assets are not lost, obviously, on us even today. Indeed, and Kingsley, I must really confess that I'm always thrilled when I hear, that national anthem, especially the stanza that speaks to the labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain, which in rendition really is the most solemn part of the national anthem, and it should be the most solemn part. Well, that's interesting, because at independence that wasn't Nigeria's national anthem. That anthem was introduced in the 1970s by the administration of Murtala Muhammad and General Olusegun Obasanjo. That was sometime in 1978 or 79. There's no question about that the labors of our heroes past certainly shall not be in vain, and it is the duty of current and future generations to ensure that those labors continue to yield the dividends that will make life livable for all. Indeed, well, later Maya Angelou Kingsley likened independence to a heady, drought, and she says it is not only intoxicating, that's independence, but also addictive, and with each drink you want more. And of course, this resonates with the yearnings of Nigerians for a better Nigeria, having attained the ripe age of 60. Ripe age of 60? Oh, man, that was... Wait, 60? Is 60 not ripe? 60 isn't ripe. I mean, let's... Are you serious? Yes, I mean, for individuals, 60 isn't ripe. That's midlife. That's midlife still for individuals. And of course, for countries, it should be counting hundreds of years. That will be the real mark of longevity. Well, in his broadcast yesterday to mark Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee, President Muhammadu Buhari acknowledged that the country is grappling with multiple challenges, with a population now exceeding 200 million, occupying the same landmass, but with over 50% now residing in urban areas. And in a very concise and precise summary, President Buhari took us through a mental journey of our nationhood and identified what he called consistent and artificially contrived fault lines, which really are unnecessary, as the underlying cause of the country's challenges. And this anniversary, the President says, presents a genuine opportunity to begin to shed those old and worn-out perceptions. On Good Morning Nigeria this Friday, we shall continue our deliberations on Nigeria at 60 with a Dow. I am Claire Dilabo Abdurrazak, thanking you for always being
happy chat.
Well, as Claire just indicated, we'll continue our series of the conversations on different sectors of the economy in the past 60 years. And in the course of our conversation, we shall also be taking a look at some aspects of the transportation infrastructure and the wisdom behind the projects. Now, we also have a second topic, which is particularly very important, and that is the National Water Resources Bill 2020, which has kicked up quite some storm. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to welcome you to the program. We're broadcasting at the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, live from our Abuja headquarters studios. Claire, I was just going to say that the heavens were benevolent to us yesterday, at least in the Federal Capital Territory, where the skies were clear, just like your name, although the spelling is different. The skies were clear. In fact, the sun was up pretty early, and throughout the day, not a drop of rain. But this morning, the skies are cloudy.
You know what they say. You know what they say about rains.
No.
You know, some people do believe that when it rains, it's a sign of blessing. Some signs of showers of blessings as well. So it depends on the angle you look at it.
Well, the colorful parade and ceremonies we had yesterday at Eagle Square might have been otherwise if the environment were as wet as we had this morning. Pretty windy. I'm not quite sure what it is like out there because we are insulated from all of the elements out there. All right.
This is the kind of weather that evokes.
I wouldn't know. But I don't one other way of looking at it, if it didn't rain yesterday and it's raining this morning, I'm sure that would be a good reason to promptly pay any fees that might have been deployed yesterday to ensure that the elements were kept away. All right. So it's Good Morning Nigeria. Once again, we have our regular complimentary segments, and those segments will include newspaper review and business. In the meantime, let's take the highlights of the morning news. And here's our newsreader this morning, Chimobi Watanaji. Good morning.
I wonder where Chimobi 60 years ago, where were you?
Well, like you said earlier, for those of us on this side.
Okay, so you're joining me on this side. I think I've
answered the question. Good morning, Nigeria, and good morning, and welcome to the morning news. Now, activities marking Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary came to a climax this Thursday with military parade, cultural display, and signing of the anniversary register by President Muhammadu Buhari. The ceremony held at the Eagle Square in Abuja was attended by dignitaries from the legislature, the judiciary, and the diplomatic corps.
You cannot belittle our achievements as a nation and as a people and expect greatness. It's what you say that you get. That is the truth about it. So the place of patriotism is essentially important. And we are leaders at different levels in which we find ourselves. What are you doing in your small corner will determine how patriotic you are.
And 60 years of nationhood indeed, calls for celebration, and in the case of the All Progressives Congress being the party in government at a time like this is historic, yet comes with a responsibility.
I think the President, Muhammadu Buhari, and the party are looking for ways to make sure that we lay down an infrastructure and foundation that would last for the next 60 years again.
I wish Nigeria well.
I want to rejoice President Muhammadu Buhari and Nigerians, and I'm happy that they are 60.
What do you want to tell Nigerian children?
I want to tell them that they should work hard and they should be reading every day so that they can be something they want to achieve in life.
In the face of what is happening, we are determined to continue to strive to make Nigeria better.
Now, as Nigeria clocks 60, congratulatory messages have been pouring in, encouraging Nigerians to believe in the Nigerian project and to shun vices capable of tarnishing the Nigerian brand. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, noted in a statement that the Diamond Jubilee of Nigeria calls for sober reflection on the progress made and the desired future as a nation. He advised Nigerians not to allow a magnification of the country's teething problems to some people to shake their faith in the great destiny of Nigeria. Similarly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, congratulates Nigerians for witnessing the nation's 60th anniversary. In his goodwill message, the Speaker eulogized and paid glowing tributes to the founding fathers who made sacrifices for the country to become what it is today. In the same vein, the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the organized labor in Nigeria wish to congratulate Nigerian workers and government on the occasion of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary, urging Nigerians to renew their faith in Nigeria through fairness and justice. Still on goodwill messages, the National Orientation Agency is urging Nigerians to forge a clear path for a better Nigeria. In the meantime, India felicitates with President Muhammadu Buhari and the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the country's 60th independence anniversary. A letter from the President of India, Ram Nath Kovind, to the Nigerian leader noted that India and Nigeria have always enjoyed close and friendly relations that is age-old, deep-rooted and multidimensional. He thanked President Buhari for Nigeria's assistance in repatriating Indian citizens in Nigeria in the wake of COVID-19 and looks forward to further strengthening the highly beneficial bilateral ties. The Indian president also wished President Buhari good health and continued progress and prosperity of the friendly people of Nigeria. Now, as the years roll by, 60 years and counting, patriots who contributed to nationhood may just be part of history books, but generations born, it is therefore pertinent to share the thoughts of those still alive when need be. One of such is Pa Michael Taiwo Akinkunmi, who conceived the iconic green and white flag of the country.
I presented something the country wanted to use as the flag useful in anywhere in the nation.
If someone ask me on my name, but then I'm Akinkunmi, Akinwumi. Who's Akinkunmi? Is it the one that designed the Nigerian flag? Yes. It's always a thing of joy. I'm proud to bear the name.
Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has announced 153 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figure released during the total number brings the total number of confirmed cases to 59,001 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 14 states indicates that Lagos again recorded the highest number for the day with 81 new cases, while Rivers has 21 new cases. Others are FCT 11, Ogun 8, Kaduna 7, Oyo 6, and Akwa Ibom has 5 new cases. Others are Osun and Katsina states with 3 new cases each, while Edo, Ebonyi, and Nasarawa states recorded 2 new cases each. The day's tally is completed by Plateau and Kano states recording 1 case each. A breakdown of confirmed cases by states shows Lagos in the lead with 19,542, followed by the FCT with 5,760. Plateau comes third with 3,451 cases. As it stands, total number of active cases are now 7,437, with 50,452 cases having been successfully treated and discharged, while an unfortunate 1,112 patients lost their lives. All right, and that concludes the morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley after this break. Do stay with us.
as a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19. A corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Yes, that's the painful effect of what corruption costs you. But what does corruption cost us all? Watch Bad Guys on NTA Network, 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday from the Akin Fadeyi Foundation. Bad Guys. Who are the bad guys? Join us.
Candidates who applied for admission into Ahmadu Bello University NTA TV College degree program in Mass Communication for 2020-2021 academic session are invited to a post-UTME and direct entry screening exercise scheduled as follows. Date: 15th to 17th October 2020. Venue: NTA TV College premises, Rayfield, Jos. Time: 9 a.m. daily. Screening fee: 2,000 naira, paid through the remitter platform in any commercial bank in favor of NTA TV College, Jos. Eligible candidates are those who indicated NTA TV College as their first choice and scored 180 and above in the 2020 UTME examination. Candidates are expected to come along with the originals of their O-level certificates, JAMB slips, birth certificates, indigenship certificate and proof of payment. Direct entry candidates are expected to come along with their original diploma certificates, A-level results in addition to the other credentials mentioned above. Shortlisted candidates without O-level results will not be cleared by JAMB. Therefore, all candidates are advised to visit any JAMB office or accredited CBT center nearest to them to upload their O-level results. Wearing a face mask is compulsory for admittance into the college premises, in addition to strict observance of other COVID-19 safety protocols. Announcer, Registrar.
Moments can be ordinary. It's what we make of them that really matter. Make the best of every moment, every day, like super moms do with Indomie. Moments to laugh with Indomie. Moments to learn with Indomie. Moments to care with Indomie. Moments to share with Indomie. Moments like no other to appreciate.
Super Moms create special family moments with their love. Celebrate these delicious moments with Indomie noodles. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Now it's time for business news with our correspondent, Comfort Amodu.
One of the key agenda of the federal government under the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan is to promote domestic use of compressed natural gas and support the creation of 100 million jobs. This fund reserves particularly the deregulation of the downstream to provide Nigerians with an effective option to petrol and invariably an opportunity for more involvement of the private sector.
Because the pressure on dollar is unimaginable. But with this deregulation, a lot of private sector driven companies will come on board. The value chain is huge. The drivers, the pump attendant, and other ancillary workers, So the market will open up. We should be exporting this refined product and create job opportunity and make life more meaningful, both in agriculture, value chain, fertilizer, both in other industry, maybe pharmaceuticals. A lot of things from the vertical integration will begin to unfold.
All right, that was our business package put together by Comfort Amodu. Let's move on. Our newspaper review is coming up right now.
Newspaper reviewer Baya Tobe is here with us. Baya, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire.
Yes, Baya, I wasn't here yesterday, so let me wish you a very happy Independence celebration.
Thank you. You missed me in my national independence jersey. I wear it every 1st October. Proud to be in Nigeria. Good morning, Nigeria.
Indeed. We are all proud to be Nigerians, regardless of what challenges we are all going through. We're, like they say, we have no other country, and we had no choice anyway.
Show me one nation in the world that doesn't have challenges.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
It's the determination to overcome the challenges.
And it is actually what you focus on that is also critical.
Yes.
And when you focus on the opportunities, those challenges pale into opportunities. And then you begin to see that there's a lot of work for you to do and benefits arising from the work that you do. But the key thing is for us to continue to uphold our national dignity, our national interests at all times. At all times.
Leaders and citizens.
Yes. Yesterday I was watching one of our live telecast on independence, and there was a particular report on Nigerians in diaspora, how they have excelled, and I was so happy. I was pleased, that Nigerians are doing great things, and we have great Nigerians doing great things outside the country and representing us very well. So we rarely see that aspect of us to really flourish to what would I say?
Well, sometimes it's just tweaking one or two things and just creating the right environment. When we were having the conversation on the independence yesterday, one of our guests, a regular guest, said, reminded us that part of what the president was saying, Nigeria worked in the past. And we are witnesses to when Nigeria worked. I mean, if I tell some younger persons these days that growing up, we didn't know what boreholes were.
Yes.
Boreholes. You didn't know what boreholes were. You knew that there was power. You knew that you could open your doors and not be scared.
Do you know you could, when returning from school, Kingsley, I remember, you could just get to a point and then open the tap rolling and then you...
Precisely. Public taps. Public taps were all over the place. And the economy was growing. The economy was growing. I mean, in school, when we were in elementary school, when we were using pounds, shillings, and pence, if you had one penny, 1 pence, as it was, or 1 penny then, if you bought groundnut and guguru with 1 penny and you put it in your pocket, your khaki pockets.
It will protrude.
It will big time. I remember.
Okay, let's start with the paper. I just have one item.
Yes.
And it's Nigeria at 60. Eminent citizens, others chart way forward. It's on the front page of the leadership, and you see the beautiful green and white colors. You see the president and his wife and the vice president there also, and the former immediate past president and his wife were also there. If you see the picture splash on the front page, you'll see all of them, beautifully adorned in green, white, green colors, and this is beautiful. This is beautiful. It's beautiful to see the former, immediate past president and his wife standing side by side with the president and his wife, vice president, and of course the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And you see the motorcade there, President Muhammad Buhari at Nigeria, 6th Independence Anniversary celebration at the Eagle Square. Now, PMB rallies Nigerians, says national healing process imperative. You can see that. And of course that was after taking us, as we said earlier on a mental journey into how we have come, or where we have come from. I can recover 10 billion stolen pension fund now, away from the independence story. The story is trending at the foot of the paper. In 30 days, that's me now. How federal government labor averted nationwide strike, page 2. India governance assembly Lord PMB's as achievements on page 2 as well. Now, 75 billion naira survival fund. Federal government opens registration portal for 333,000 artisans and orders. It's on page 31. Kingsley,
That's all I have on the front page.
Okay, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Just beginning with the photograph from the Independence Day celebration. The photograph I have here, maybe that's not on Claire's paper. You have amongst the dignitaries that she earlier mentioned, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon. You can see him there on the right side, the extreme right of the photograph, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon. He was Nigeria's military head of state from 1966 to 1975. Now, the lead story for that headline says, Buhari, that's the kicker, no going back on petrol subsidy removal. With two riders, marketers, and Sanusi back government action. PDP, don't compare Saudi with Nigeria. And a quote taken from the president's speech, it makes no sense for oil to be cheaper in Nigeria than in Saudi Arabia. Girl, unfortunately, 11, gang raped to death in Lagos. That's page 4. IPOB sit-at-home call flops in Southeast. That's on page 28. Now, going up again above the name flag of the Nation newspaper, Plateau monarchs killing, suspects held. That's page 4. Security agents and harsh revolution now protesters clash in march in Lagos and Abuja. That's page 8. Bello unveils welfare package for Kogi citizens. Rep disputes 9.3 million naira monthly salary claim. And below the name flag, Ondo 2020. Akeredolu is making an allegation there against his deputy. Then 10 parties to back consensus candidate. And low voter turnout likely, and monarchs back governor. Details on page 27. 9 million jobs coming as AFDB and Microsoft partner government. Floods send 53,000 people to IDP camps in Kebbi. 27,000 travelers fly into Nigeria. That's since the reopening of the airports for international flights. So 27,000 travelers fly into Nigeria. Abuja, Ikeja, and Enugu discos hang tariff hike. Page 25.
Right. Thank you, Kinsley.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, apart from the assurance of protection of life and property, as well as national healing that the president advocated, governors across the state yesterday were also sending messages. Governor Doye Diri of Bayelsa State in the broadcast called on and emphasized that Nigerians should emphasize things that unite us as much as and all that we have in common, rather than harp on those that divide us. Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State says people should not support call for dismemberment of the nation. Rather, we should tweak the structure of the federal system to respond to the needs of all units. Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State said we should focus on the new national consensus, that is, collective goals of citizenship, rule of law, diversity, and merit. Muhammad Badaru of Jigawa also called for us to attain the dream of our founding fathers. Everybody must own and work for the development process. Yesterday, at a ceremony marking the 60-year anniversary, a member of the House of Representatives is reported in by the blueprint as saying that the House of Rep members earn about 9.3 million. And he gave a breakdown, and he says that official salary is 800,000, while office running cost is 8.5 million. He said the problem is that we as members are disturbed by constituents. They demand, and when you don't meet it, it becomes an issue. However, another member who was at that same ceremony says that he has been in the National Assembly for a long time, but this amount of salary that's been announced is strange to him because he has never earned it. Another former senator also opined that Nigeria should endeavor to establish a national budget office. This is the only means to stop what he describes as budget padding. And talking about Nigerians in diaspora, Claire, that you mentioned, you remember 31-year-old Israel Adesanya, who won the middleweight belt in United Arab Emirates last weekend. He said that is a gift to Nigeria for the 60 years anniversary. The Nigerian New Zealanders scored second-round victory over his Brazilian counterpart. And he says his desire is to visit Nigeria after COVID-19. He wants to explore partnering to help teeming youths by holding clinics for young men and women who want to go into mixed martial art. He is now the champion of ultimate kickboxing.
Yes, okay. The editorial really is on 600 road projects. President Buhari set some beaten record from the Daily Trust. But Bayo, we really do not have much time to look at it. I'm told that we have to move on. But this editorial is commending the ceaseless fiscal and administrative stimulus that the Buhari administration has put into the completion of this major project.
Yes,
So, Bayo,
yes,
we'll
indeed.
see you. We'll see you no, Monday.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
I've taken notes of the record.
Indeed, and because we will look at some of these issues on, it's the thought of our conversation this morning. So, Bayo, have a good week.
Thank you.
A good weekend.
All right.
Hello, Kinsley.
Well, that's right. So, it's Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our two topics for conversation, one after the other.
After a disappointing trip to the Hawthorns, Chelsea will be seeking a win at home when they welcome Crystal Palace to Stamford Bridge. It is Chelsea versus Crystal Palace on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network this Saturday from 12 noon. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank and Bye-Bye Jebu.
Do you desire to upscale your skills and capacities for better productivity? Then you need to attend the following courses organized by NTA TV College, JOS, Archival Management System in the Broadcast Media, date 12th to 30th October 2020. Photojournalism and Photography, date 19th to 30th October 2020. English Grammar and Pronunciation for Broadcasters, date 26th October to 20th November 2020. Protocol Event Management and Public Relations, date 2nd to 13th November 2020. Intermediate Camera Operation Techniques, date 2nd to 13th November 2020. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 16th to 27th November 2020. The course fee for the 4-week course is 100,000 naira per participant, while the fee for other courses is 80,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA Television College, near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Afro Culture presents First Nigerian Entertainment and Economic Roundtable, Lagos 2020.
Theme: positioning the entertainment and creative industry to lead private sector role in supporting federal and state government's efforts at achieving urgent economic diversification.
The roundtable is supported by Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the Nigerian Television Authority, and Lagos State Government.
For sponsorship and inquiries, call 0908-501-0000.
Nigerian Entertainment and Economic Roundtable.
Mainstreaming the entertainment and creative industry into the nation's economy.
All right, good morning and welcome once again. If you've just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Now, before we start our conversation on Nigeria at 60 matters arising, let's listen to the views of some Nigerians on Nigeria at 60, and that will set the tone for our conversation.
Let's look at our roads. Currently today, we have about, our national road network is about 198,000 to 200,000 kilometers. It was also at independence. So we've grown our road networks. I mean, you know how long it used to take to travel from, from maybe Port Harcourt to Maiduguri at independence. It's no longer like that. Let's look at air transportation. At independence, I think we had only 2 aerodromes, Lagos and Kano. How many do we have today? People can very easily fly around the country and take it for granted. It wasn't like that before. Now, let's look at our rail network. Let's look at how the rail network has expanded. There's a lot to be proud of in terms of what we have done in the evolution of infrastructure across both, what you call the economic sector, which are things like roads, transportation and everything. Then look at seaports. How many seaports did we have at independence? We only had 2 seaports. In fact, those were river ports, not even seaports, in Port Harcourt and in Lagos. But how many do we have today? Look at our inland waterways. People are able to move and stuff like that. Look at the general. So from the point of view of infrastructure, there has been very, very significant growth.
So you go to the hospital premises everywhere. It's expanded. You have new buildings here and there. But are they delivering the commensurate outreach, the results? That is because the manpower, you see, when you say structure, the development of the health sector, it's all encompassing. The buildings must be developed, equipment must be developed, and the workforce must be better cared for. It is these that combine to make and improve the health system. Let us try to see, accept that we are not where we ought to be, not because the resources were not there, but because we are unable to appropriately manage the resources the way they ought to be managed. If we look at the level of progress at that time, if we had moved at that pace appropriately, today Nigeria should be one of the leading countries in the world.
Buhari now is doing well in terms of real work. Yeah, on the real work, but you can see what Buhari is doing, trying to link the country. I hope he's able to do that before his second tenure ends. If he does that, maybe that will be one of his finest or biggest legacy in 8 years, that he's been able to link the country. Infrastructurally, educationally, or in terms of economy, everything comes back to leadership. If we allow the right people to win elections, if our elections are gotten right, then we'll get good leadership right. Good leadership will take on our infrastructure the right way.
All right, thank you very much there for that background report. With us in the studios now to discuss that issue as well as other matters relating to Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee, let's welcome Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Honorable Minister of Information and Culture. Honorable Minister, a pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you, Kingsley. And happy Independence Anniversary.
My dear, thank you. And happy.
All right, so let's begin. I mean, for you and ultimately for the government, what are your dominant feelings as Nigeria marks 60 years?
Well, I feel excited. I'm proud to be a Nigerian. And I appreciate the fact that despite all the challenges we faced in the last 60 years, we still remain one united country. And that we still remain the engine room, the biggest economy in Africa, and that our future is very bright, especially given the focus of this administration in the area of infrastructure, on agriculture, fighting corruption, ease of doing business, and fighting insecurity. I remain very optimistic that the future is very bright for this country.
In evaluating how we have come, Honorable Minister, the founding fathers fought for independence and got it, and also, fought for the sustenance of this political structure. Within that, how, in keeping and sustaining that structure, how would you evaluate our performance?
If our performance as a country or our performance as an administration, which one?
A performance as a country in sustaining that structure that our founding fathers have fought very hard to keep.
Yeah, you see, our founding fathers fought very hard to keep Nigeria one, to keep Nigeria united, to keep Nigeria on the path of industrialization and progress. But again, we went through a lot, the least of which is not the 30-month civil war. We went through a period of death in infrastructure development. We went through a period of population explosion without necessary planning. But despite all that, we still remain one. And when you look at the indices and you look at the countries around us, even developed countries, you have cause to be proud to be a Nigerian, despite all the challenges. There's some things that completely beyond our control, even as a country. And let's talk about, climate change, for instance. When we were independent in 1960, we were barely 52 million, if I remember. Population living within the same, geographical confined. Today, we're about 200 million people, and the space has remained the same. So, naturally, there are bound to be a lot of issues, either in terms of natural resources, in terms of, growth, in terms of development. But I still believe that, especially given what the administration has done in the last 5 years, if we can be sustained, I believe there's a lot of hope for this country.
I'm just wondering, sometimes when you tell a personal story or you give a personal perspective, it sometimes drives home the point more. What are you proud of being a Nigerian at 60?
Well, when I look at what this country has achieved as a nation, a few countries in Africa that started with us have either been split into several nationalities, or they've been unable to have full reconciliation as we did. Their economic growth has been stunted, and the fact that we still remain one despite all our challenges, we are still very optimistic. We've made a lot of progress in the area of infrastructure, in the area of agriculture, especially in the last couple of years, and we are building an infrastructural legacy that will propel us to the next level, especially in the area of technology, telecommunication, and businesses. I think that gives me pride to be a Nigerian, and that at 60 the best is yet to come.
So to whom will the minister attribute the credit of what we have achieved so far, the unity we have achieved, and the other benefits, as a Nigerian, yes. To whom would you attribute the credit?
You see,
to the leadership or to the people themselves?
I think both the people and both the leadership, because you need a leadership with focus and with vision to drive a people. You also need a better understanding, people to appreciate when a country is going through tough times, when a country is going, through, some storms. But generally, I think a lot will depend on the leadership of a country.
I'm just wondering, our Honorable Minister, we mentioned infrastructure a while ago, and our background report also interviewed one of the respondents, that's the DG of ICRC, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, and he was just talking about the number of let's say, seaports that were available, the number of airports. Sometimes Nigerians who have the younger generation probably do not recall that the very first expressway, interstate expressway we had, came almost 20 years after independence. That was the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in 1978.
Are you kidding me?
That's right. That was our first expressway. Yes.
1975, 78, about 78.
About 78, or thereabout. Yes, 78. Followed by the Shagamu or Benin expressway. And for a while, those were the only expressways we had in the country. But we have seen the phenomenal growth in infrastructure. Just before we get into the details of what we are seeing with infrastructure and how to upgrade them further, do you think that sometimes in evaluating ourselves, we get rather too pessimistic?
I agree with you absolutely. I think we try to emphasize the negative aspect of our positive of the country rather than the positive aspect. I think I'm not saying this just because I'm in government, because I'm saying it because I want to take off from where you left in the area of infrastructure. Between 1898 and 1986, we had 3,505 kilometers of railway all over Nigeria. And it was divided into two major spheres. That's what we call the Western Corridor, which is Lagos to Kano. Then the Eastern Corridor, which is Port to Maiduguri. For almost 20 years, until 2007, no single inch was added to our railway. And it was only in 2009 that the federal government then decided that, look, there will be a two-pronged approach: rehabilitation of the single track and also the construction of the standard gauge. But I think it was the credit of this administration that the Itape, Ajaokuta, Warri 312 kilometer rail that was commenced in 1987 only came to reality this week, when on Tuesday the president virtually commissioned the rail. After 33 years, it was when we came in that we now took up the mantra and said, look, we must complete this. Ditto the 175 kilometer Kaduna Abuja Railroad, which again was commenced in 2011, but which this administration actually decided to take on and completed sometime in 2016. I can also look at the Lagos Ibadan standard gauge, which this administration started in 2017 and which is virtually completed. I think I was there last 2 months ago with the Minister of Transportation and the media, and the tracks are almost completed. The stations are different stages of completion. Now you see, this shows that within a period of about 5 years, just in the area of infrastructure, just the area of rail alone, this is what this administration has done. Then I can go to the area of roads and bridges, because I remember that just this in the last couple of months had been on a tour of major infrastructural projects that this administrations have backed upon. Last month I was at the Loko Oweto Bridge. The Loko Oweto Bridge actually connects Nasarawa and Benue State, and it's a 2-kilometer bridge which is about 97% completed as when we went there, and it's going to cut by almost 3 hours the journey from the east to the west. I mean, yes, from the east to the west. Now, not even talking about the agricultural economy that is going to rationalize. Now, I also was in Ibegwe. in Imo State last month, September, to see firsthand, in company of about 30 private and public media, the first completed model refinery in the country. Now, many people have been issued licenses for, modular refinery, but the first one to be completed, which is today is completed, is ready, and its capacity today is 5,000 barrels a day, but that's going to move to 50,000 barrels in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, these are some of the infrastructure projects this administration has been able to see. Or do you want to go to the area of power? Look at the area of power. What was the situation that we met? You see, it's very important for you to know where you are, for you to know where you have gotten to. Many just do not appreciate the fact that we inherited a power sector that was largely privatized. Generation was privatized, so also was distribution privatized. In other words, the only area where the federal government had any control whatsoever was in the area of transmission. Even though the installed capacity of power in Nigeria today is about 13,000 megawatts. What reaches our houses is less than 4,000 megawatts, per hour. Now, what did we do when we got there? And as I speak today, even though the DISCO and the GENCOs are privatized, the federal government has still intervened to ensure that that installed capacity of 13,000 megawatts, at least a very high percentage of it reaches every home. And that's why we went to this agreement with Siemens. And hopefully by the end of 2021, at least 7,000 megawatts of power will be reaching, the homes. So when we look at, I think we've been very unfair and critical to ourselves. When we look at the level of development in Nigeria, the level of infrastructure in Nigeria, given the size of the country, you begin to find that yes, if only each administration can follow up on what the previous one has done, it will be easier for us to develop. And that's one thing I think I must credit this administration. We have embraced, adopted, and continued with every project that we erected. That's why I can say that, look, the Itakpe Ajaokuta Warri rail, which was coming in 1987, we didn't come there, abandon it, and then start our own. Now that did we do, same for the Kaduna Abuja rail, or even the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, which had been concession, that had gone through a lot of traumatic transformations, but we remain focused. And I hope that hopefully in a very short time that Lagos Ibadan Expressway will also be completed.
Now that the Honourable Minister has talked on the rail infrastructure, in fact, I'm also excited. I must confess, I'm excited about what is happening in the rail transport sector, and particularly the inauguration of the Itakpe Ajaokuta Alaja, Warri segment. I understand it's 327 kilometers. The Honourable Minister said it's
312. 312. But I think it will going to be extended to Abuja and also to the Warri Port Complex.
Okay, so that's an engagement. Yeah. But when you say people are critical, we are unnecessarily critical of ourselves. It could be because sometimes they're not in tune with government policies and all that. With the Itakpe axis rail corridor, what is the expected outcome for the residents within those corridors? Because I know it links the North Central and the South region, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. You see, the original concept of the Itakpe Warri, actually Itakpe Alaja, when it started first, was actually to evacuate the mineral deposits, the finished product, the steel complex. It was actually meant for the steel complex in Ajaokuta and Alaja. But over time, which was supposed to actually be exclusively cargo. But right now it has been modified to also include passenger services and cargo, and nothing opens up a country like transportation, especially rail transportation. You can imagine the amount of the congestion that will go on, that will leave the axis. Not to talk about the economy you are going to create along that corridor. When you look at the old railway corridor, whether it is the western corridor or the eastern corridor, you will find that the most prosperous cities were cities through which the rail passed, because you can move your agricultural products, you can move services, you can move people along that road. And when it is now linked to Abuja and to the Warri port itself, a complex itself, you can only imagine the kind of exponential economic growth that you are going to witness on that corridor. And you see the same goes for the 156 kilometer Lagos Ibadan, standard, rail, because it is going to completely congest the Lagos Ibadan expressway, and it means now that rather than spend days or several hours, from Lagos to Ibadan, you have a choice to get there in under 2 hours, actually 90 minutes. But more importantly is the fact that when you look at the design of the Lagos Ibadan dual standard, it has been linked to the Apapa complex. Now, containers now meant for outside Lagos will be evacuated to, I think, somewhere Ijoko, where the Nigerian the shipping council has a container terminal, a dry container terminal. Now, so you will no longer see
congestion.
You will no longer see trailers, carrying containers from Lagos to anywhere in the country. All those containers will be dropped around Ibadan at that container dry terminal to be moved to other parts of the country
via rail.
You have your choice. It could be via rail, it could be via road. But then what we are saying that we are decongesting the Apapa terminal completely. We are decongesting that axis of Apapa or Jota, Apapa, Lagos.
Honorable Minister, something that I find curious, and incidentally, when the President commissioned the Ajaokuta Itakpe Warri rail line project, we had the opportunity of referencing it here on Good Morning Nigeria. Why is it that it is only the federal government that talks about rail and rail and rail? Earlier you were explaining the potential boom in economic and transportation activities from the surrounding localities. And I was wondering, why would state governments or geo-economic zones, rather than referring to these six geopolitical zones, why couldn't they possibly be persuaded now to invest? I mean, I'm looking at this terminal at Agbo, which was the main focal point. Why wouldn't the surrounding states, Edo for instance, have its own rail that would connect from, say, Edo to come and link it, Delta, within Delta from Asaba to come and link it, and then on and on we go, so that the federal government has its own, just as we have with the federal highways, the main arterial lines, and then you have the spurs being developed by state governments. We don't seem to have this conversation. Your explanation is noted, but are we at some point going to have to say, hey, look, yes, we know that the legal constitutional environment isn't quite right for it, but that could be fast-tracked so that the more conversations we have about this, it isn't just the federal government alone that we keep hearing about rail.
Well, you see, Kingsley, while I agree with you that it will help for the sub-nations to complement the efforts of federal government. I think a few of them are doing so already. I still remember the Lagos Light Rail project. I also remember that many states in many parts of this country actually on their own, invested in various airports, which were eventually either taken over by the government or the other. So, but again, you must also look at the capital intensiveness of some of these projects. Was like Riley said, to look at also the legal implication. But I'm sure that like it happened in Lagos, and I hope they will be able to complete the light rail. There was this conversation between the federal government and the state government, and I hope that light rail project would come to fruition. Already, when we handed over the National Theatre to the Bankers Committee stroke CBN, the collaboration is between the federal government, Lagos state government, the CBN and Bankers Committee, and I think what the Lagos government is putting into the equation is also the light rail project, so which will connect people and people can come by rail. So really, yes, we would continue to encourage sub-nationals to cooperate with government, but at times some of these projects are either too capital intensive, or you see, again, when they have to cut through states, then there's this legal implication. While you can make roads probably within your own township, can you actually make roads that will connect, one state to the other? But these are issues that I think the Attorney General's office will probably throw more light on. But with proper understanding and proper coordination, the subnationals can also help the federal government.
Well, Edo State is asking the federal government to help link the TAPE to
yes.
I don't know. Well, while we're at rail, I will not fail to ask the Honorable Minister this question, and that has to do with I know the rail modernization project aims at connecting every part of
every state, every state,
yes.
Yeah.
But there's been an extension to our neighboring Niger, and that has generated quite, a talk from Nigerians, some positive, others not. Maybe the Honorable Minister will use this opportunity to let us know the wisdom in that extension.
Yes, I think there's been a lot of disinformation and total lack of information at times in respect of that that Kanu, Katsina, Maradi, rail. Now, the wisdom behind it is that Niger, Chad, I think Burkina Faso and Co are all landlocked, which means they have no access to the sea. So today, most of the imports and exports have to go through neighboring states. Now, because we do not have the road infrastructure that would encourage Niger, for instance, to use our seaports, we believe that if we have a train service, then we're able to take over the import and export business of Nigeria Republic. That is a simple reason why we did so. We did so to strengthen the economy of Nigeria. Today, Nigeria Republic uses Benin Republic and uses Cotonou, seaport for all their exports and their imports. They use Togo, they use Ghana. But when you look at the distance by rail, especially at the time you take them from Katsina to Maradi, it will be easier for us to capture that business. That is only wisdom. It's not because of, there's nothing about territorial expansion. No, it's economy, it is business. We are losing so much business to countries like Benin Republic, to Togo, to Ghana.
when we should take advantage of our proximity and a very efficient rail system. That's all.
And the Nigerian authorities are also supposed to develop their connection to Maradi. Is that the expectation?
Well, we see, we know that it will be once we have our train services to Maradi. It's in the interest of the Nigerian Republic because it will be faster by train to get their exports to Lagos and get their imports to Maradi. Now, what is the alternative now is that even from Cotonou or from Accra or from Lome, how do the goods get there? They get there by road with all the challenges, all the security challenges, and the time. So we are actually building a competitive economy by extending this thing to Maradi.
Sometimes part of the issues we have with public affairs analysis in Nigeria is people jump on issues without adequate information. But somebody would then ask, why was this explanation not proffered early enough? The information out there was Kano Casino is going, so it's like take it or leave it.
No. I see. It's a credit of the Minister for Transportation that he did explain even at the briefing. Because this matter came up even at council also, and he explained. But as soon we have this briefing after every Federal Council meeting, where we just give the bare just the bare facts of what transpired in council. After which we go further to explain in full, either in terms of, we call it briefing a series, where I go out with the minister in charge, like either his power, his transportation or agriculture. And we were in the process of business. Even last week in Lagos, I was busy explaining this same thing. But you see, the critics jumped on the wagon without even contacting either the minister or even contacting the Minister of Information. But I agree with you, we'll continue to put this kind of information in the public sphere, so that people that want to debate it or analyze it will also be on very firm.
I'm sure you have Honorable Minister, apprehended the comments that why would Nigeria be borrowing so much to fund infrastructure for a neighboring country? But the explanation is
and again, you see, so many Nigerians don't even understand our geography. Unfortunately, I've been to Gibia. And from Gibia to Mara, you see, even today there's a kind of informal economy between Gibia and Maradi. I mean, Gibia, some part of Gibia is in Katsina State, some part of Gibia is in Niger. Now, when we take a train to Maradi, all you are doing is that we are taking away the economy, pure and simple, because they have no sea, and it will be cheaper for them, more efficient for them to put their goods on the rail to Lagos than to go by road from Maradi to Cotonou or to Lome. That is the simple, explanation.
Like Kingsley said, there's need for much more conversation on this, so that people and really it is those who are very frequent on the social media, that need to understand what is going on. Quite a number of the young ones need to understand what is going on.
I agree with you. There cannot be too much explanation.
Precisely.
We will continue at every forum we have to explain further. But I said the Minister of Transportation did explain this, but they did not even wait for. I mean, you see, we finished council on Wednesday, and by Wednesday evening it had gone viral. Oh,
Nigeria is going to support infrastructure in Niger Republic.
Okay, let's
unfortunately, I mean, just by the way, it turns out that in the current season of independent commentators,
exactly,
the cardinal rule is be informed before you pass your own comment. That rule is often held.
I was with this. I was with 360 degrees the Badmos over the weekend, and I took pains to explain this same thing, and I will not be tired of explaining it.
Honorable Minister, you were at DPR.
Yeah,
that's the Department of Petroleum Resources, and in the conversations reported between you and the CEO, we understand that we were going to upgrade our production capacity to about 3 million barrels per day in the next 2 years.
You see, our visit to DPR actually enlightened us much more about what that department is doing for the economy of Nigeria. And I'm glad to say that having visited the DPR and exchanged, views with the DPR, I became more confident about the future of this country. You see, Nigerians hardly appreciate how, with deft management of the economy between DPR, the Ministry of Finance, how the Nigerian government has been able to really tame the impact of COVID-19. You see, don't forget that with COVID-19, the country was struggling on the one hand how to preserve lives, on the other hand how to preserve livelihood. When human and vehicular movements are stopped, the economy stops. When international and domestic flights are stopped, domestic and world economy stops. When crude prices slump by more than -60%, when there is no demand for your crude, the economy, which probably derives about 70% of its foreign exchange or 80% of its revenue from crude, will totally collapse. How are we able to manage? Because yes, it's true that the second quarter MBS report said we have a negative growth of minus, I think, 6.10% against even what they put out to be about 7.2%. But when you look at what other developed economies have suffered the same period, you begin to appreciate what DPR, Ministry of Finance, and co have done. The US in the same quarter suffered minus 30% negative growth. The UK minus 20%. Israel minus 29%. Japan minus 8%. South Africa is still between minus 20 and minus 50%. The only country in the world in that second quarter that managed to record a positive growth, it's actually China, which is 3%. Now, this I see. I'm not saying it because I'm in this administration. I'm saying it because I look at what is happening around me, and that's why I've taken examples from developed countries and developing countries also at the same time to say that. But for the very deft management of the economy, the situation would have been much worse than what it is today, because this pandemic has actually shut down the economy around the world. Look at our agriculture, for instance. Yes, incidentally, even all through this, agriculture, broadcasting, telecommunication made positive growth. Broadcasting currently made about 9% growth during this period. Telecommunication about 14% growth. Agriculture marginal, but not negative. But out about 46 indexes, only 13, recorded positive growth, as opposed to 30 that they saw in the first quarter. But this is not unique to to Nigeria, but that we've done much better than other economies in the world.
How the DPR played a role?
Exactly.
The DPR, that's Department of Petroleum Resources. You've mentioned that the linkage between the DPR and Ministry of Finance resulted in what you refer to as the deft management of the economy under the very difficult circumstances of the coronavirus. How did the DPR do this?
You see, DPR is a regulatory body. And what DPR does, that DPR monitors not just your reserve, but it also monitors what goes out of your country. It monitors what is the trend. It monitors and says, look, India last month took X amount of crude from you. India this month is taking less from you. How would that not affect your economy? So DPR now looks at the global picture and says that, look, while India might not be taking more, let's go to this other part of the country. But more importantly, it keeps a record on your reserves. It keeps a record on your production. It regulates both in a manner that you do not, your output does not just exceed what is required out there. Otherwise, you are going to end up having an inventory where you are producing more, but there's nobody that is taking your product. And that is what's going to, you see, price regulation is about the demand and production. If the demand is not there and you are producing too much, your price will go down. And again, of course, you have to also to manage, between what is the OPEC, quota and your own production quota. You must not exceed the OPEC quota. At the same time, you need to also to ensure and sustain your economy, and that is why I think the DPR has done so well that I can't quite remember the figure now, but what was anticipated as going to be the negative growth has been very, very minimally, has minimally impacted our the
all right, so that's to say, I mean, one of the key roles therefore has to do with energy forecasting and the advisory role,
and also regulatory too.
Just before you we'll let you go, Honorable Minister, because we have another very interesting topic to discuss. We're talking about the National Arts Theatre and revamping it at the level of collaboration and the light rail. Of course, you're very familiar with Lagos. For those who are also very familiar with Lagos, right from Igomu straight down to Badagry, there have been complaints about the state of that road. The road was supposed to have been totally reconstructed. I think that I saw some footage on television yesterday. Some of the residents were protesting and issuing ultimatum for that. What is happening to the Badagry Expressway? Because it's an arterial corridor to the west coast of Africa. It appears that for so long nothing is moving along that corridor. Are there any issues that can be resolved speedily? At least we're getting to the dry season shortly.
If my memory serves me right, I think this matter came up recently at the Federal Council, and I think that the Ministry of Works and Housing is seriously looking into reviving that project. I think the ministry, I would also get the details and how far it has gone with the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, but clearly it is one of the top priority projects of this administration. But don't forget also that funding is quite a critical issue too. But I think that particular road, that particular corridor, is one of the projects that the Ministry of Works and Housing informed that I think they are are taking over. They are resuming with, yes.
Honorable Minister, we would always be delighted to have you come here to shed more light on the government's policies and programs. We really have a second topic, so we must allow you to go at this hour. We appreciate your presence, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Time to take another short break. When we come back, we have another interesting discussion on the new water bill.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Edition of TV Guide is out, featuring great personalities from all walks of life. Expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
All right, the National Water Resources Bill, reintroduced to the National Assembly in 2020, was passed by the House of Representatives, but the House later recalled the bill for reconsideration, or what it calls reconsideration, because of alleged controversy the bill has generated. Now, that bill is again before the Senate, and to discuss the components of the National Water Resources Bill 2020, we are now being joined by Engineer Suleiman Adamu, who is Minister of Water Resources. He will speak more on what the bill seeks to achieve and then why it is generating so much cloud from not just Nigerians but members of the National Assembly. Let's welcome the Minister. Thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning and happy Independence Anniversary.
Same to you.
All right, just as well, we'll begin the conversation. What exactly does the National Water Resources Bill seek to achieve?
Well, the controversy, if I borrow from Shakespeare, is much ado about nothing. This bill, the laws exist. We have 4 existing laws that are operating in this country. The National Water Resources Act, the National Water Resources Institute Act, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Act, and the River Basin Development Authorities Act. These are the 4 laws that govern the water sector in this country. In 2004, please note these dates. In 2004, experts and the government of the day felt that in line with the principles of integrated water resources management, which I will explain later, and in line with what obtains in other countries of the world, there should not be 4 laws fragmented, that they should all put these laws under one statute. And therefore, work commenced. By 2006, a draft bill was ready. It went through road shows in all the 6 geopolitical zones. A final draft emerged in 2008. Professional bodies and everybody was asked to make an input, on the architecture of the bill. Thereafter, it was left in the shelves and nothing was done. I came into office in 2015. I had a retreat with all the major stakeholders in the country, water stakeholders, and part of the recommendations of that retreat that we need to pass that bill so that we have an integrated water resources law, and that will help to enhance the water resources sector. Early in January 2016 or thereabout, I sent this bill to all the state governors of the country for additional input. Remember that this bill had already been drafted and gone through roadshows in 2008. I sent this bill to the state governors. I received comments. And then in May 2016, we went to the National Council of Water Resources, where all the commissioners of water resources from all the states of the Federation are represented. We endorsed that bill at the National Council of Water Resources meeting. That's May 2016. When I took this bill, I presented it to the Federal Executive Council. The Federal Executive Council is made up of ministers from all the 36 states of the Federation. FEC approved this bill. And then it went to the Attorney General for final polishing to dot the I's and cross the T's. And then finally sent to the National Assembly. In November 2017, the House of Representatives held a public hearing on this bill, compiled all the information, and passed that bill. Then in 2018, it went to the Senate. While it was presented on the floor of the Senate, some senators, rightfully, it's within their right to ask questions, asked certain questions about the provisions of this bill. And then thereafter, somehow, I didn't see the event, but next thing I heard, it was in the media, and there was a report that a bill had divided senators between northern senators and southern senators, which is not true. Every senator that has a bill presented before him has a right to ask questions. When that issue arose, the then Senate President now set up a committee, a technical committee, and said, okay, let's look at all the issues again. If there's anybody that has any issues, present it to the technical committee, let these things be resolved, and the bill should be brought back to the floor of the House. Unfortunately, the work was cut off by the 2019 election. After the 2019 election, there was a transition, so we didn't feel it was fair to go and cajole the Senate to deal with this bill. So it is not true that the bill was even thrown out in the first instance. It is not true. It was just caught up with time. And now that we came back to the second term, masterfully we got re-elected, and I was reappointed, I felt it a duty to return this bill to the National Assembly. This bill, 95% of what is in that bill is an agglomeration of all the existing laws, the 4 laws that I mentioned to you, so there is nothing new. And whether this bill is collated and, and put in that one statute that we're asking for or not, these laws exist and we're operating them. There is nothing about creating a new agency. The commission, the regulatory commission already exists since 2007. The National Integrated Water Resources Management Commission, it's existed. Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency exists. Licensing of commercial use of water is already ongoing, it's an ongoing thing. Catchment management offices that are in the bill are already operating under the Nigerian Integrated Water Resources Management Commission. Catchment steering committees also exist. And there's nothing in this law, in the existing law, and now taking into the bill that says individuals cannot drill boreholes in their houses, or you cannot have, if you have a pond in your farm, you cannot use it, or even if you have a farm that is crossing, that there is a river by it, or a river crosses it, that you cannot use the water. For individual use, everybody in Nigeria has a right to use the water. Now, item 64 of part 2 of the of the Constitution, of the exclusive list of the Federal Constitution, already vests powers of control and custodianship of the water resources of this country that traverse more than one state on the federal government of Nigeria. So if you are arguing about power grab or anything, that's a non-issue because the Constitution already settles it. If you want to change that, if you want to change the Constitution, that's a different matter. But as the laws exist now, everything that is in that bill is already an existing law and is consistent with the Constitution. And wherever land issue was mentioned, to start with, there is never any issue in that bill that talks about obtaining banks of the river for the federal government. It does not exist. It's a figment of people's imagination. And wherever the issue of land was discussed under the River Basin Development Authorities Act, or the section that will come in the bill. And it says any land that the River Basin Development Authorities are going to use must be consistent with the Land Use Act, which means they must get the consent of the governor of the state.
Okay, Honorable Minister, For emphasis, I'm going to ask some of the questions. I know you have given us an overview of what this bill is all about. With regards to operation of boreholes, what does this bill say? And then secondly, with regards to accessing and controlling water resources that falls within your domain, and in relation to separation of powers, who owns what and other, what specifically does this bill say?
Don't say what the bill says. Say what does the existing law say, because the laws are there.
No, because
I understand. The point I want to make is, as far as boreholes are concerned, number one, we have a responsibility through the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency to know how our water resources are being exploited. There are major companies in this country, bottling companies, that have industrial boreholes that are draining water resources that nobody knows about. You go and drill your borehole next door in your house and you don't see water. You don't know that there is what we call interference. When two balls are working, they are close to each other, they are interfering with the resource. The groundwater itself is like a river. It flows across boundaries. It flows across countries. We have even international bodies that we're members of as a country, Nigeria, because of the aquifers that exist all the way to Algeria. So it's important for us to know what is going on. But the law does not deprive any citizen of this country from drilling his borehole. Personally, as a somebody in the water industry, especially in urban settlements, I don't support the idea of boreholes, because states need to provide municipal water supply like every other place provides. There is the failure of states to over the years to provide such urban schemes that have led people to find solutions for themselves, and we cannot deprive people of that. If there is a lake in a state, if there is a dam in a state, if there are ponds, fadama, or what have you, those are the responsibilities of the state. What this bill is talking about, it's very clear in the exclusive list, item 64, rivers or water bodies that cross boundaries of states. Federal government should take responsibility. And that is what has been applied, and that is what is existing. And the same thing applies to federal highways. The same thing applies to the Nigerian airspace. In fact, this bill is better, is softer, let me say, than the Water Resources, than the Highways Act, because under the Federal Highways Act, you have corridors 100 meters or so either side of the road that continues to be federal territory. It's part of the road corridor of the federal highway. Nothing of such exists in this bill. There is nothing that says rivers or 2 meters either side of the river are going to be owned by the federal government. It does not exist. And this bill seeks to protect everybody. I've been saying rivers Niger and Benue flow in from Kebbi State and Adamawa State. And these are the two rivers that make what the Niger Delta is. They are the ones that make Lokoja what it is. If there is no federal custodianship of this bill, or of the waters, or the law in this country, if there's no custodianship on the part of the federal government, imagine a situation where Kebbi State or Adamawa State just wake up one day and say, we're going to build a dam on River Niger and River Benue, arbitrarily. Who is going to protect those downstream communities? If some money bag has a large farm on the banks of River Niger or River Benue and brings excavators one day and just decides to open a canal and divert this water to his farm, if there is no regulation, who is going to stop him? So these are some of the things that are there.
I was just wondering, Honorable Minister, I mean, there are further issues to drill into. But earlier you said there are 4 principal pieces of legislation governing water resources management, and that the whole idea of the National Water Resources Bill is to agglomerate these 4 pieces of legislation. And according to you, 95% of the provisions in the bill derive from pre-existing legislation. What is in the remaining 5%, and could that be the source of the agitation?
Very good question. Number one, there are just 3 issues. The existing legislation, the commission the Nigerian Integrated Water Resources Management Commission is operating on the basis of delegated powers of the minister. The Water Resources Act 2004 provides, enormous powers to the minister. As Minister of Water Resources, you can decide to, on these rivers to do whatever you like. Under this legislation, and it's already in practice because this commission, like I said, has been existing since 2007, is devolving the powers of the minister to the commission, and the commission is devolving powers to the catchments. That's why we have catchment management offices. We have about 8. We have catchment steering committees. So if on River Benue somebody wants to build a large irrigation facility and he wants to draw water, he must go to that commission and apply. He will tell us how much more water he wants to take in a given year. Then that commission will now go to send this to the catchment management offices, and then the steering committee will be brought into focus. This catchment management committee is made of representatives of all the states that are within that particular catchment. Let me make this clear. Hydrological boundaries do not respect political boundaries. It's about watershed. It's the issue of how the water is. When this water was created by God, there was no no country. You understand? So now it devolves powers to this this catchment management, and the catchments will sit down. There will be a public hearing with all the people. There will be the whole concept of the project will be explained, whether it's a hydropower project or irrigation project or a large scale or whatever it is. Then the situation will be explained, and then there must be a consensus between those catchments that okay, they agree that this project can go on because it has no impact on us, either on our land degradation or on the water resources that we're enjoying, or for those communities downstream for that matter. So when that is done, then the commission will now recommend to the minister to issue a license. That is all there is. So that is one. Number two, we are doing what we call right now transforming irrigation management in Nigeria. It's a new concept because when I came into office, for instance, the federal government has already developed 170,000 hectares of formal irrigation infrastructure, but only 70,000 hectares were being fully utilized. The rest were not working because they need rehabilitation, and so they're dilapidated. So this new concept of irrigation management seeks to also devolve certain responsibility to irrigation farmers, whereby the government will deal with the dams and the major irrigation canals, and the farmers will be aggregated into water user associations, and they can collect they can pool resources. They will be required to contribute money. All the water rates that they're supposed to be paying, they'll put it in a fund, and they'll be using it to maintain the secondary and tertiary irrigation infrastructure. The third one, which is the most sad aspect of it, if you say you're going to throw this bill out, we have made a provision for a WASH fund, Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. That fund is supposed to be for states to now draw from. It's going to be a fund that will have federal government contribution, states contribution from international donor agencies and international financial institutions. And that is for the benefit of the state government to now draw money to be able to do water schemes for urban schemes and rural schemes and sanitation facilities. So these are the only three new provisions. In fact, the first one was not even a new provision because already it's existing based on delegated powers of the minister.
What would then be the role of state ministries of water resources if this bill were to become an act of the National Assembly?
First of all, there is nothing that has changed. The responsibility for providing water to cities and rural communities primarily rests with state governments. And we have the National Urban Sector Reform Program where we are trying to help the states to corporatize their water agencies so that they can be, they can be able to be self-sustaining. Because now even existing facilities, governments are not being able to provide the necessary funding for them. So they need to be able to recover costs and so on. That exists and nobody is tampering with it. The other issue is about boreholes. And what we are saying, the same way that states are responsible for development control, the National Regulatory Commission will now be able to delegate responsibilities to the states, it will devolve that responsibility to the states to be able to license or to at least to give permit for drilling of boreholes. Look, in this country, you have had what happened, the tectonic movements in Abuja recently, and we're told that initially I didn't believe that there will be 100,000 boreholes in Abuja, but now I believe so. So imagine this kind of situation that the authorities, the agencies that are responsible for managing the water resources in this country don't even know where the boreholes are. So how can you manage the resource? So it's not about depriving people, it's not about taxing people. People are talking as if the whole bill is about generating revenue for government. No, it is not. It is about properly managing and protecting our water resources. That's just what it is about.
Okay, I just have two questions and I'll just quickly ask them within the period, short time we have, Honorable Minister. The first one is, in a period where a lot of people are agitating for devolution of powers, let's make, governance, let's decentralize governance and give the subnational governments more powers. If this bill is passed into law, won't it be abrogating too much powers to the center and therefore, making our system more unitary? That's one. And secondly, how will it enable attainment of SDG goals on, water, access to water for all?
There is nothing in this bill that is about power grab. It is very clear. Everything that transcends all the resources, every other thing that transcends state boundaries is the responsibility of the federal government. If we don't like that, we can change the constitution. But that is what we have today. So if you don't, then you say you don't have federal highways, then you don't have railways. Okay, if states and the national government can work on them together, fine. I had the Minister of Information, a similar question was asked, where federal government, government is already moving slowly into these things. Now, state governments have been given the responsibility to also develop their power generation. No problem. But this law, this water law, this is about water. It's about rivers. No river starts from one boundary, one end of the northern boundary of the state to the southern boundary of the state. Some other states need to be protected. There has to be an umpire to deal with that situation. I think that's the nature of things. It's a federal system that we have. So there is nothing about power grab. It's about having a custodian, somebody that will be the umpire for those, for the other users. It's just to guarantee the rights of water for everybody. Now the other question about SDGs. Yes, that is why we have the Wash Fund in this bill. Because we came into office, we realized that the states are not being able to meet, they couldn't meet the Millennium Development Goals. Federal government does not have a water board. It is the states that have water agencies. So one of the ways we thought that we could stimulate the states, we could help the states to help the country achieve the Sustainable Development Goals is through this WASH action plan that we created and the P-WASH program is that we also launched in 2016 is to support the states to be able to deliver. That is the whole purpose. Our water resources roadmap is anchored on 3 pillars: the National Water Resources Master Plan, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the water sector roadmap that are initiated from 2015 to 2030. And everything, as far as water supply and sanitation are concerned, is geared towards attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. So if we throw away this bill, we throw out an opportunity for the states for us to be able to generate funds with federal government support to provide the states with the much needed funds to provide water and sanitation services to the states. And right now already under our P-WASH program, we did a pilot project 2018-2019 in Ogun and Kano states. Now we are doing almost about 900 schemes in 10 states, and 2 more states have come into being. In the next 6 months, we'll have a total of at least 4 times 12, 48 local governments in this country with their rural communities having 100% access to water supply.
I was just wondering, Honorable Minister, I'm sure you've accessed some of the trenchant criticisms against the National Water Resources Bill 2020. One of the arguments that I find common in some of the criticisms is that even if you isolated the country's major river systems, there are only very few rivers that do not traverse more than one state. And therefore, the argument is, oh, this is, as my colleague Claire asked earlier, this is a power grab. You look at any river, any major river where around which you have settlements and now you now have states, it traverses more than one state. So that argument is there. And I'm sure you've also heard what some of the Joe groups have said, that this is intended, as a conquest mission. What's your reaction to this?
You see, a lot of people have been taking second-hand news. They listen to what other people do. Almost all the critics of this bill they never read this bill. And there are some people that whatever government does, it doesn't matter what this government does, they are ready to criticize it and oppose it. So with those kind of people, what can you do? You cannot change their mindset, Look, this law, the Water Resources Act 2000, has been operating since 1993. Has anybody ever been stopped? Why does anybody think that is going to be done now? And how long is Buhari administration going to be? We're only here until 2023, in any case. And in the last 5 years, that has not happened. So what makes you think that something like this is going to happen? It's the nature of things. We didn't create these rivers. It is God that created them. And we have a country God has put us together. Why can't we trust our government? Why must it be that whatever the government does is taken as suspect? In any case, I had a very good meeting with the Governors Forum. I gave them all the existing laws. They are studying them. They say the Attorney General will study them. And I'm sure there will be an intelligent and informed analysis of what this bill is all about. Most of the legislators that came eventually to read this bill have said, told me privately that they have found nothing wrong with this bill.
But they don't understand. But they're asking that the bill be put to public scrutiny again. Look,
it was put to scrutiny. Why didn't they go to the public hearing in November 2017? It was not an issue then. But because it was
not passed unanimously.
No, it was by the House of Representatives. It was only when it got to the Senate. At that time, there was a lot of heated argument about Ruga, about this, about that. And then enemies of government or the opposition or whoever now decided to label this bill that it's a Ruga bill, it's a Fulani enhancement bill, which it is not. The Ijo communities that you're talking about, they are the ones that stand to be protected more by the water resources law in this country because they are the downstream end of rivers Niger and Benue. Without rivers Niger and Benue, there will be no delta. And this is what I'm saying. A lot of communities in the south, a lot of the water flows from the Mambila Highlands. Other rivers like River Kaduna and so that feed into the Niger flow from the Jos Plateau. So like I said in our press briefing, the last time I checked, fresh water in Nigeria flows from north to south, not the other way around. From the south, it's salt water. Even the topography will not even allow the water to flow out because you are flowing upland. Water flows to the lower part. So the Ijo people, if they understand, if they really appreciate, if it is not about opposition or anything like that, they should know that all the communities downstream of rivers Niger and Benue are the ones that benefit more by a water resources law or that gives custodianship of water to the federal government, not to individual states or money bags, and therefore they stand to be protected. Because without that, there will be no Niger Delta. Remember the Kainji Dam. We are the downstream of River Niger. River Niger crosses probably 7 countries, and we're at the receiving end. We built a dam on Kainji, and it became important for us to now subsidize electricity to Niger Republic, to Benin Republic, and we have this cooperation under the Niger Basin Authority to ensure that no country does any development on River Niger unless all the 9 countries of the Niger Basin Authority agree. That is to protecting Nigeria, because Guinea can decide to build a dam, Mali can decide to build a dam, Niger can decide to build a dam, and that is the end of our investment and the end of our
country. We are seeing the argument that Egypt is having now, but some persons, again, still to clarify this, because it is very important, is this just wrong timing for the bill? Because if you trace the history, there seemed to be no opposition. You talked about 2004, draft ready in 2008, draft sent to the states in 2016, Water Council, that is National Water Council, approved it in 2016, FEC approved it, and yet now Some of the governors are saying that no, we must study it. If they have this prior encounter, as it were, with the bill, in draft bill, if you like, in 2016, why all of a sudden now they're not saying, all right, let's remove our glasses and so that, we can see the small print?
Yeah. Have you seen any governor of the ruling party opposing this bill? It's just politics. They just decided to politicize it. In 2018, when this thing started at the Senate, I made it. I said, please do not politicize this bill. This bill is for the good of the country, And like I said, whether this bill is passed or not, the laws are existing. But the states will lose. The country will lose because provisions like the wash fund, provisions like the devolving powers to farmers, and it will not happen. And then we are back to square one. We'll never be able to develop our irrigation facilities and manage them the way we want to. And we will continue to, people will continue to drill boreholes and drink water from sachet water, from sachets. You understand? Pure water. That's what is going to happen. But if we have this bill, we pass it with the new provisions that we've added for wash fund and so on, I think we are good to go. We are not doing this for any ulterior motive. We are doing it for the betterment of the country and also to protect future generations, because they also have a right to this water. If previous generations had wasted and bastardized the water resources in this country, we would not be here to enjoy it. And we have not been managing this water. And one very important thing, if you have a strong regulation, it now means that private sector funds can be attracted, into the same way we had the reforms that ensured the private sector came in to invest in power. But let it not be now misconstrued now after what I've said now for people to say that we're going to privatize our dams and rivers. No, that is not the issue. The issue is, at least in managing and operation of water schemes, especially municipal schemes, there are many interested companies that can come and run them more efficiently than the water corporations are doing today.
So I don't really know what to say. If the controversy persists and peradventure the NGF comes and says, look, we're not quite comfortable with this bill. It's an executive bill. Would you consider withdrawing the bill?
Well, first of all, I honestly don't see that happening, because I believe even the skeptics, the governors that are skeptics, I was able to explain this situation to them and allay their fears. And when they really go through the nitty-gritty of this bill, along with the existing laws that I mentioned, they will see that there is nothing for them to fear. So I do not see that happening. And we're engaging, again, with members of the National Assembly. We're engaging with everybody to make them understand, look, all this fear, you have been taking news, somebody just woke up one day and turned this bill upside down, decided to politicize it, said all sorts of things. Even this issue about Lagos State complaining about inland waterways, that they have a law, they have a case with the federal government. There is nothing in this bill about inland waterways navigation. There is nothing in this bill about inland waterways. People have not been studying this bill. And I think this country, we owe it a duty, especially for those of us that dealing with issues of policy and political leadership, that we should arm ourselves, we should read these things, we should study them, rather than just being hysterical and emotional unnecessarily. Because honestly, if you look at this bill conscientiously, objectively, you see that it is for the good of the country, and there is nothing to fear about it.
All right, Engineer Suleiman Adamo, Honorable Minister of Water Resources, would like to thank you for being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's go over now to our sports desk.
Manchester United will face Paris Saint-Germain, RB Leipzig, and Istanbul Basaksehir in the Champions League group stage this season. Premier League champions Liverpool will have to negotiate a group containing Ajax, Atlanta, and Danish side Midtjylland. Manchester City are in Group D with Porto, Olympiacos, and Marseille. Meanwhile, Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi are set to face each other after Juventus and Barcelona were drawn in Group G, while others Bayern Munich will face Atletico Madrid in Group A. The draw, which also saw Real Madrid and Inter Milan paired in Group took place without club officials present due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Also, Robert Lewandowski was named UEFA Men's Player of the Year on Thursday, following a superb season in which he won the treble with Bayern Munich. Lewandowski was at the UEFA headquarters in Switzerland to receive the award at the draw for the Champions League group stage, just weeks after Bayern won the 2019-2020 edition of the competition. And in tennis, Novak Djokovic continued his dominant start to the French Open with a ruthless straight-set win against Lithuanian world number 66 Ricardas Berankis in the second round. The world number 1 won 6-1, 6-2, 6-2.
All right, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. Nigeria, of course, is still basking the Diamond Jubilee. We had the massive celebration yesterday. Best of luck to all of us Nigerians. Stay safe and be well. Good Morning Nigeria returns on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to join us and be a star. Stand against rape and rapists. Bye-bye from all of us.